The last type of relationship we're going to talk about is a many-to-many relationship. Now, prior to this video, just like in the past one, I went ahead and I dropped my database called My Company. If you're going to follow along, you either need to drop your database or you need to use a different name when you're creating a database. So, with that in mind, let's get started. The first thing that I'm going to do is to create my database, and I will call it My Company. And I want to connect to the database My Company. Now, the next thing I'm going to do is create a table named Employees with 4 columns, with an ID, which will be the primary key, the name of the employee, which will have a character limit of 50, the employee's age, and the employee's salary. So to do that, I'm going to use the create table command, and the table is called employees. And like I said, we're going to have an ID, which is an integer in the primary key, name, with a character limit of 50, age, and salary. And since we're done with that table, we're going to go ahead and hit that semicolon. Next, I'm going to create a new table called projects. And inside of this table, I'm going to have 3 columns. I'm going to have an ID, which will be the primary key for this table, or for the primary key for any values we put inside this table, I should say. Then I will have the name column with a character limit of 50, and I will have a description. And for the description, I'm going to use text instead of varchar so that I don't need to indicate a character limit. So let's get started. We're going to create the table called projects. And now that I'm done with that table, I'm going to go ahead and close it off with a semicolon. Next, I'm going to create one more table. And this table is going to be called Employee Projects. There are going to be two columns in here. There's going to be an employee ID and a project ID. And these columns together are going to form the primary key of this table. The table is going to have 2 foreign keys. One is going to reference the ID of the employees table, while the other is going to reference the ID of the projects table. So let's get that started. We're going to create the table, employee projects. We're going to have an employee ID column, be an integer, a project ID column will also be an integer. The primary key of this table is going to be the employee ID and the project ID. To get the employee ID, we're going to use this foreign key on employee ID, that column, and we are referencing the employees table, specifically the ID column. Next, we are adding another foreign key for the project ID, and you could probably guess it's going to reference the projects table, specifically the ID column. Alright, then we're done with that table, so let's just go ahead and put a semicolon to indicate that we're done. Next, we're going to actually want to add some data in here so that we can really see what we've got going on. So let's go ahead and add a couple employees. So we're going to use the insert into command, and we're inserting into the employees table an ID, a name, an age, and a salary. And the values that we're going to put in this table: ID of 1, their name is going to be John, they are 25 years old, making $50,000 a year. Next, we're going to create another employee, Jane, who's 30 and is making $60,000 a year. Next, we're going to add some projects into the projects table. So we're going to use the insert into command again, into the projects table. And the projects are expecting an ID, a name, and a description. And the values that we're going to put in, I start with an ID of 1. Name of the project we'll call website redesign. And a description of this would be redesigning company website. We're done with this statement, so I'm going to go ahead and close it off. But I'm going to copy it down just to make another project. So this project will have an ID of 2. And this will be for, let's say, mobile app development. And the description of this would be developing a mobile app for iOS and Android. And it ends in a semicolon. We're done with that. Next, we have one more table. We have the employee projects table. So we are going to use the insert into command again. And we're inserting into the employee projects table. We're going to give it an employee ID as well as a project ID. And for the first one, we are going to say John, employee ID John, number 1, and the project he's working on has an ID of 1, which would mean he is working on a website redesign. Next, let's make a couple of these. Let's say John is also working on mobile app development, and Jane is concentrating on website redesign. So now John has 2 projects that he's involved in, both the website redesign and the mobile app development, whereas Jane is focusing all of her energy on the website redesign. Next, let's actually run this, see our data. Let's go ahead and use some select statements so we can see what we're working with. So let's select everything from the employee projects table, see what the projects are, which should be these 2. Next, let's select everything from, I apologize, select everything from the employee projects should be everything that Jane and John are working on, whereas the projects will be these 2. And we also want to see all of our employees. And after that, let's say we want to see everyone who's working on website redesign, which will be both of our employees at this point. So to see that, we would say select all from employee projects using the where clause. The project ID is 1, which is going to be website redesign. And then let's say we wanted to see everyone working in specifically mobile app development, which in this case will just be John. So what we should see here, well, let's just run this and let's see what we get. So to run this command, I'm going to run it as the Postgres user, and my file name is mycompany.sql. This all looks good. Let's go ahead and run it and see what we get. Enter a password. Ooh, all that good stuff. So, let's start from the top and go through it. First thing it should do is create the database. Check. Next, we connect to the database. Check. Then we create 3 tables: employees, projects, and employee projects. Check, check, and check. Next, we're going to insert 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 statements. And we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 insert into statements. So that's correct. It went through everything. Now, we want to see everything in the employee projects table. So, we see we have 2 project IDs, 1 and 2, and we have the employees that are assigned to those projects. So employee 1 is assigned to project 1 and 2. That would be John, and John is in fact assigned to both the website redesign and the mobile app development, whereas Jane, the employee ID with 2, is assigned specifically to website redesign, not the mobile app development. Next, we want to see the employees where the project ID is 1. Now the project ID for 1 will be website redesign, which they both are working on. All right. Oh, well, yes, here are the projects. I believe I skipped over projects and employees. So projects and employees table. And then we go down to the project ID, where I just skipped to, equals 1, which is both of them. We see users 1 and 2. And lastly, we want to see who's working on just mobile app development. And what I would expect to see here would be the user with the ID of 1, because that's John, and he should be the only one working on this. And that's exactly what we see. So this is an example of one-to-many of a many-to-many relationship, because you can have many employees working on many different projects. So that is where the many-to-many connection comes in. I hope that this video made sense. I'm going to push up all of this code to GitHub. I'm going to combine all 3 here on this one file. And if you have any questions at all, please send me a message. I'm happy to help. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope you feel better about relationships after this. Bye.